Hey guys, how are we? It's Tuesday. It's 11. It's 11 where I am. It's time for our second episode of the Bodhiverse. So, instead of having a set topic tonight, because nothing has totally come up over and over and over this week, which is weird, I thought I would just let you guys ask whatever you would like to ask. Witchy or not, spiritual or not, whether you want a real answer or a funny answer, whatever you would like to ask. If you guys did not catch my zodiac reads, I do that every single Tuesday, 8:30 Central. Read for the signs for the week. Come in, see how your week's going to go. We'll hang out, we'll have some fun. Y'all can laugh at me, I can laugh at you. You know, it's a great time. I'm just saying. So, what would we like to know tonight, guys? Next week, I'll be talking about dreams. I'll have all kinds of unique information about how to tell which dreams are clairs, which dreams are dreams, which dreams are astral travel, and so on. So, yeah. Look at Tiffany right off the bat with a good question. How long do you wait between workings? It depends what kind of workings you're doing. If you're doing something for the same thing, or if you are doing two different workings for two different things. If you have a big situation, you're doing workings for different things within that situation. It just kind of depends. Yeah, it just kind of depends. It also depends if you're doing something, say a cord cutting. I would wait a little bit before you do anything else on that. And I say a little bit, a week or two, because workings are not meant to work immediately. They might change or shift something immediately, but they don't always immediately have that result. So you need to wait just a little bit before you do something else. Because if you do something, cord cutting, for example, and then you literally the next day do something different, you didn't give the universe time to do anything at all. So therefore, you don't know what the outcome of your cord cutting was going to be or do, and now you're altering it again. So I would give it at least a week, just depending on the severity, depending on the intent, and depending on how in-depth that working is before you start anything else for that. This is fantastic. Oh, Panda Pants asks, I am really trying to develop my potential for psychic mediumship. Do you have any tips? First of all, let me tell you that it kind of sucks. I'm just to be honest. Make sure it's something you really, really want to do. Because, and I'm not trying to deter people, but I am. I'm just being honest with you. It's great in the fact that you get to connect people with people they miss. You get to connect people so they can say goodbye. You can connect people for whatever reason. However, and this is something I explain all the time when I do my lives. So right now, there's about 250 or so people in this room. There are not just 250 of you. If I were to open myself up for mediumship abilities and do readings or whatever, that 250 suddenly becomes closer to 1,000 or more. And all of those people want to talk to me. Not just you, all of them. So you have to be ready to be at the grocery store, be at the gas station, be wherever, and people bombard you. So you have to know how to protect yourself, how to put a glass case around so nobody is there, nobody talks to you, etc. However, if you really would like to boost your mediumship abilities, your mediumship skills, here's what I would recommend. There are all kinds of free groups on Facebook. I don't know about Instagram or so, but there are all kinds of amazing groups out there that will have free readings. They will ask for people to read. They will ask if anybody wants to learn and so on. Usually what they do is they will have pictures of people that have passed away and that are alive. And so what they will do is they will have the people that are learning, that are wanting to read and so on, go through and first of all, see if they can tell who has passed away and who is here, and pick up whatever they can off of those people whether they are here or whether they have passed away, the ones that they're drawn to, read. And then they have the people that know those people, tell them if they are right or wrong. One of the things that I love is that some of the groups do not tell you the ones you're wrong. They simply tell you the ones you're right, because that helps boost your abilities more than anything. Because we are taught as humans with the wonderful meat sack brain that if you are told no, it immediately puts a stop in your brain. If you are told yes, it lets you know you're on the right track. So it helps you to develop those abilities in knowing that you are on the right track. So guys, if you're ever working with anybody, and this is something I do as well with people that I apprentice and so on, I don't tell them no, period. Because there is something we're conditioned with as kids that as soon as we hear the word no, that line stops. So if you guys are ever in a position where you're teaching other people, do not say the word no. Say something different. So I know there were a ton of questions going by here. Let me see here. How often should someone do shadow work? Well, here's the thing. Once you start doing shadow work, you kind of never stop. Once you start delving down the road of doing inner work, of working on yourself, of fixing your inner child and meshing the shadow back in with the light, it never stops. You can take lulls, you can take breaks, but it never stops. You will get to the point that you will be doing it continually. This will happen, and you'll know you've hit this point when someone says something to you and you have a reaction, and your first thought is not anger or hate or fear or sadness or whatever. Your first thought is, why am I reacting this way to this question? Is this their feelings? Is this my feelings? And if this is my feelings, what is it in me that's triggering that response? That's when you know you're doing shadow work on a moment-to-moment basis. It will cause you to pause and think about how you respond. It will cause you to pay attention going forward, what you say, what you do, who you're around. So you will absolutely continue to do shadow work as soon as you start. You just don't stop. Ooh, I love the sage questions. Is it true you can't smudge with white sage unless you are native? That is a loaded, great question. So let's delve down that rabbit hole. Sage is not really a protected plant. There are so many people, it is readily available that so many people can grow it in their backyards. It's not something that only grows on protected land. It's not something that only grows in one particular place, etc. There are also so many kinds of sage. It's not even funny. So let's start with white sage. With white sage in particular, it's so readily available. It's literally sold at Walmart. It's sold everywhere. To me, that's no longer a closed practice. It's just like if I can go online and I can look up a book on any type of practice that I would like to learn, that I am interested in learning and that I want to learn to be respectful of that practice, and I find 900 and something books on the subject, that is no longer a closed practice to me. There are people that argue about this all the time. If you guys ever are worried about using a specific kind of sage, let me tell you, there is a type of sage that grows on every single continent in the world, except Antarctica, obviously. But there are so many other kinds of sage. There's desert sage, there's blue sage. In fact, desert sage is actually one of my favorite types because I have migraines. For those of you guys that have headaches, that have migraines, desert sage is actually really good to help with them. What I would do, if you guys are just getting into your spiritual practice, look up the different types of sage that are out there. Start there. So here's the thing with sage. What sage does is it does not clear everything out of your home. It creates a vacuum. So what it does is it pushes the bad out and it sucks the good in. Eventually, that vacuum will get back to balance. And you'll have to do it again. That's how it works. But there are so many other things you can use than sage. What I recommend all the time is for you to find out what your background is. How were you raised? Were you raised with a Native American practice, belief, family, etc.? Were you raised with Irish? Were you raised with German? Were you raised African American? Where's your background from? Find out where your background's from. Connect with the herbs that connect you to that background. You can use cedar. You can use sage. You can use yerba santa. You can use palo santo. You can use sandalwood. You can use thyme. You can use lavender. There are so many herbs you can do to smudge your house. And before someone asks, let's talk about the word smudge because that's another one that kind of cracks me up. The word smudge is not a Native American term. Every single tribe has a different term, a different word that they use for that practice, for the practice of cleansing a space, of blessing a space, of removing negativity from a space. Smudge is the word that the colonizers put on the practice because they couldn't say the word. They didn't understand. That's the word that they put on it. Every single tribe has an amazingly beautiful term for it. So the word smudge is a white person term. I prefer the term cleanse, whatever it is you're doing. Getting all the shit out is a lot of times what I just say. Getting all the shit out. So look at your background. If you want to, design your own incense. You can burn all kinds of loose herbs. Get charcoal pellets, get you an abalone shell, get you something that's fire resistant. Burn your own incense. It's amazing. Plus, it makes it your space, your incense. So, in reference to your hexing video, how do you know when balance is needed? That is fantastic. If you guys are new to your practice and you're not sure how to tell when balance is needed, it's pretty easy. You're going to feel a backup. Let me give you a couple examples. One is one of mine personally, is that for the longest time, I was raised with balance, okay? For the longest time, I was only putting out light, only putting out good because that's all I wanted. That's all I wanted. Yes, I wanted good back. Who doesn't? But I wanted everybody else to have good, right? And I had people coming to me right and left to help them with something that was not so good, to help them remove something, to help them banish something, whatever. I was doing more house cleansing on places that I didn't want to be at because of how bad it was. But I was like, you know what? You're putting out light. You're putting out light. Just push the thing out and go on. And it got to the point that it backed up and came out in a very, very crazy way. Thank you for the flowers, Miss Amy. And the way it came out was that I created a deck of cards that are absolutely horrible. They're absolutely horrible. I've had them for 2 years now. I've used them 2 times. They are not nice cards. That was how mine came out. I've seen it happen in so many different ways. I've also seen it happen the opposite way, where I knew a certain person that all they did was horrible, horrible things. Bad things. That's all they wanted to do. So, what happened? After about a year or so, they had that backup, and the universe required them to swing the other way hardcore and do something good. And it was so out of the norm for them that people actually thought they were having a nervous breakdown. She wasn't. It's just that she had that backup. You will feel it, and you will know it's there. Trust me, because I knew it was there for the longest time. You will know it's there. You'll feel it in your gut that you have to have balance. Here's the best rule of thumb, guys. Whatever you do, seek balance. Whatever you do, seek balance. There are so many ways to word your workings, to word your intentions. so that instead of being worried about only putting out good or putting out bad or putting out balance, everything you do is balance. Think about your words before you say them when you're doing a working. Think about your words while you're putting your intention out. Ask for the good, ask for the bad, ask for the balance. If you get in that mindset, you don't ever have to worry about having balance. Was that a good answer? So let's see here. Am I near Tennessee? Unfortunately, no. I am in Oklahoma. Why would one astral project unintentionally at times? Ooh, y'all have great questions this evening. I need to rub my little hands together because this is a topic I love. Okay, so there are people that travel unintentionally without even knowing that they've done it. If you have ever experimented with any type of psychedelics or mind-altering drugs, chances are you've probably traveled and not realized you did it. Just saying. If you've ever gotten really, really drunk, you may have traveled in your sleep. For those of you guys that have something interesting with your brain, those people that are any type of neurodivergent, starting with ADHD and going all the way up the scale, you travel. You travel. The part in your brain that stops you from traveling every night is lower and lower and lower the older you get. For people that have epilepsy, you travel a lot, especially when you have seizure activity of any type. You travel. In fact, if you guys ever want an amazing rabbit hole to delve down, look at how epileptics were treated throughout time in other countries. Because in the US, we are treated with a horrible, horrible stigmata. Oh, do I put something in your mouth? Do I do this? Please don't. Please do not put anything in our mouths. Please do not hold us down. Please, okay? Don't do that. But in other parts of the world, especially around the Mediterranean and in the Middle East, those who were epileptic were oracles. They were treated as oracles. This has its good and its bad. It has its good in that they were whisked away to a temple. They were raised. They were treated like insanely well. They had everything they could ever want. It was bad in that they were taken from their families and whisked away to this temple, and they usually never saw their families again. A lot of times they were held against their will and they were kept high as hell on some kind of opiate, on lotus, on something like that. So they continually were having visions until they burnt out. Wars were fought over them. They were kidnapped. But they were kept in a state so that they were continually channeling. They were continually seeing this world and another world and so on. If you guys are worried that you're traveling in your sleep, here's a few ways you can tell. Okay? One way is that when you wake up, you have a dream that's so vivid, you're like, whether you write it down or not, you're not going to forget it, right? You don't. You don't. You don't forget travelings. And these are dreams that when you try to tell somebody, you remember every vivid detail. Not just, oh, I had a dream about Hogwarts and I went to Diagon Alley and blah, blah. Well, who all was there with you? Oh, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of people, but I don't even remember what I did. I just know that that's what the dream was about. If you traveled, you can tell them exactly how many stones were on the sidewalk in front of the door to Ollivanders. You can tell them exactly how many people were with you. There were 4, and there were these people right here. You can say every sinking detail. You can talk about smells. You can talk about how things feel. It's such a vivid detail. You never forget it. So if you write it down and you go back to it later, you immediately remember that dream. Here's another way. If you guys go to sleep, you wake up, and everything at all that you dreamed while you were asleep is black. There's nothing there. Nothing. And you are so exhausted that you feel like your brain just ran about 10 marathons that night. You're probably traveling in your sleep. It's just a completely different feel. This is why you can sleep 10, 12 hours and it's like you slept like a rock and it was great, but you're still exhausted for a week or two afterwards. So, tips for beginner witches. Oh, yes. So let me tell you guys that are asking about dreams and things like that. Next week, next Tuesday on my 3rd episode here, I will be talking all about dreams. So if you guys would like to know how to remember them, if you would like to know how to start dreaming vividly, how to start doing other things in your dreams, I will tell you all of it then. So, for you guys asking about tips for beginner witches, first of all, balance is key. Balance is key. Second of all, take your time. You don't have to have workings that take 30 seconds. In fact, those workings are only going to give you about 30 seconds of results. Take your time. Planning is your friend. Use every single ingredient that you have at your disposal. Set your intention right before you ever start that working. Do not be afraid to make a very drawn out, amazing working. The longer you do, the more you plan, the more intent and the more pieces you put into it. And I say pieces for a reason. I'll explain that. The better the result will be. One of my favorite workings that I've ever done was something that took me about 4 months. 4 months. I had another one that took me about 2 years, but it's because I really wasn't sure and I wasn't clear on my wordings of what I wanted. But the one that took me 4 months, I planned it for a month before I ever started on it. And once I planned it, I had a specific phase of the moon I started, a specific time of the day. I had all of these things planned out very, very intricately. And the results have been fantastic. So, take your time. Also, words matter. Words matter. If somebody says, I like you, and somebody else says, I love you, those are two completely different things. But yet, that person that said, I like you, they may actually love you. They just didn't use the right word. Do you see the difference one little thing can make? It's the difference between saying, I will have $1 million when I'm 30, and saying, I do have $1 million when I'm 30. I know it sounds weird to say it the other way because we are taught to look forward, to say, I will have, I want to do this, etc. Use the mindset that you already have it. It's already there. You're just waiting for time to catch up. So, all right. Good crystals for healers and Reiki masters. One of my favorite things, and one that I wear all the time, is this little green one right here. This is Prenite, and it's Prenhite. It's spelled several different ways. It is a green stone with specks of black tourmaline in it. It is a healer's healing stone. I love having a bracelet of it. I have a big tower of it in my room, pretty close to my bed. It is fantastic. If you are a healer of any type, highly recommend it. Bracelet, pendant, stone in your pocket, bra rock, whatever it is. There you go. So, Appalachian magic. I've seen your question come across, and I will go ahead and answer it. Here's the thing, guys. If you don't know about American folk magic, and you don't know about all of the magic that comes from the Appalachian Mountains, this is an amazing, beautiful mix of Native American practices. Most of these are Cherokee, and Irish practices, Celtic practices that came over here from those Irish slaves, the indentured servants, etc. They melded their practices together, and it became American folk magic. So, being that I didn't grow up in the Appalachian Mountains, I know more of the American folk magic side of it. If you guys were raised in the South, and if you were raised Southern Baptist, really if you were raised Southern Baptist around any part of the U.S., you grew up practicing it. I'm just saying. There is so much that there is out there, American folk magic wise, that Southern Baptists practice, that they still practice, that is not biblical. It came from a mix of Cherokee, Seminole, Osage, some other tribes around that area, and Celtic. So, if you guys were sitting here wondering about, well, I have to practice this magic or this path or that path because that's where my ancestors came from. Guess what? You can absolutely do that. You can also practice your American folk magic. I'm just saying. It is pretty powerful shit. It's amazing shit. And it's really powerful. And I'm just saying, for someone that has practiced it for a long time, you don't want to mess with that person. You don't want to mess with that person. So, there you go. I've started doing some videos on it because I kind of was flabbergasted that a lot of people don't realize that American folk magic is an amazingly powerful thing. And one thing I love about it, it's a hodgepodge. It's a hodgepodge. There's some root work in there. There's some conjure work in there. There's some Celtic practices. There's Native American practices. Every area of the U.S. has their own kind of folk magic practices. So it's fantastic. Fantastic. All righty. Let's see here. Oh my God, you guys have such great questions. All right. Let me scroll up a little bit. Oh, you guys have great questions. Okay. About finding your gifts. I see a lot of you guys are asking about finding your gifts. A lot of you guys had gifts when you were younger. And you were either told that you were weird, or we don't talk about that, or that's of the devil, or whatever. Or maybe you had an experience that made you shut them off. Your gifts are there. And I always hate when I hear people that say they don't think they have gifts. Guys, every single one of you has a gift. Every single one of you has a gift. It is what it is. Some of you have all of them. Some of you have a few. Some of you have several. Some of you just have one. And now, for those of you guys who are like, well, I think I just have one, or you realize you just have one, don't be upset about that. Here's why. Because instead of your talents and your skills and your abilities being spread out over all of the clairs, over all these different things, you're able to hone it in on one. Think of how powerful and focused that is on one thing instead of 50. How much stronger are you with that one thing when you're not spreading your energy out over 50? People don't look at it that way. So in finding your gifts, it's a little harder. Here's what I recommend. And this is good for those of you guys that are just getting into your practice and so on. Start giving yourself permission on a daily basis. Here's your homework, okay? To delve down the rabbit hole. Start with something that you're interested in, whether it's cards, scrying, clairvoyance, whatever it is. Start down the rabbit hole on that. And here's the thing, I do not recommend starting down that rabbit hole on TikTok. Start on YouTube. Start Googling it on the internet. Watch longer videos on what it is. Read about what it is. Look at the scientific side of it. Look at the mystical side of it. And look at everything in between. Just fall down the rabbit hole. Okay? Now, the reason that I'm kind of sticking to online stuff is because Google and the internet are a wonderful thing. We all know that we've looked up something and we've got like 10 results in front of us, and one of them is glaringly, obviously not what we looked up. And so like in our head, we start singing the Sesame Street song, you know, one of these things is not like the other. That's what you want to look for, is the thing that's not like everything else there. So if you're really looking up dream interpretation, and something comes across your search that's astral projection. Okay, A, that's not the same thing in any way, shape, or form. So why did that come up? I would say click on that link and fall down that rabbit hole. Give yourself permission. Don't stick to one thing. Let whatever take you wherever it needs to go. You're going to end up finding exactly what you need to find every time. Everybody says Google's really scary with how much it knows about you and so on. Let it help you in this aspect. Your Google search probably knows you better than you know yourself. So there you go. Thank you, Farmhouse. So my pie stone here, it's a little hard to see, but my pie stone is actually blue serpentine. I have had it for a while. Blue serpentine is one of my favorite stones. It is a little hard to find, and it just fell out of my head what it's actually for, so I apologize. But it's one that really helps you with your spiritual path, with all your chakras. I notice when I take it off. I don't take it off. I take it off to shower. I take it off to get my hair done. That's about it. In fact, I used to not even take it off to shower, but I ruined the clasp on a couple of these satin pendants, so I was like, all right, I probably better take that bitch off. So, thank you for all the compliments, guys. All right, I love this question too. I see that people are asking about past life regression, past life remembrance, etc. That's kind of a loaded question. There are a lot of amazing people that do past life readings. I know a ton of them. I do past life readings. I have for a long time. That's where I would recommend you guys start if you're curious about past lives. I do not recommend past life regression, and here's why. The people that do past life regression, and I do it, okay? The people that do past life regression are not normally licensed therapists. When you're doing past life regression, not only are you seeing the good things about that life, you're seeing yourself, you're seeing all this stuff, you're going to see yourself die. Generally in a very not nice way. That is something that sometimes your mind is not ready to see. Your mind is not ready to focus on. If you already have severe anxiety, if you have PTSD, if you have any kind of issues at all, sometimes epilepsy. I will not do a past life regression for anyone that has epilepsy. And my child is staring at me very funnily over here. So I will turn more people away than I actually do them. Bringing someone out of that state after they have faced their own death in a horrible way opens up a whole other can of worms. And if you don't have someone who is a licensed therapist or someone that deals with grief, someone that deals with traumatic experiences, it can cause a lot of problems. So yeah, I don't recommend past life regressions. Past life readings, absolutely. Past life regressions, not so much. And like I said, I do them. I've done them for a long time. But I turn more people away than I actually do. And I have people ask me all the time. But, yeah. All right. Yeah, it can really open up a lot of trauma. It really, really can. What is up with this new thing where you're swiping out of the live? This is crazy. You can absolutely bring that trauma back on yourself from a past life regression. You can take on trauma that you've already worked through, your soul has already worked through. So, yes. So as far as astral travel, astral projection, all that stuff, we will talk about that next week, guys. Yeah. So I will touch on sleep paralysis slightly, but that's another one we'll talk about next week. Sleep paralysis is a few different things. If you have it, if you've had it happen, and it's happening a lot, I highly recommend going to your doctor, making sure everything's okay, first of all, okay? Second, it tells me you're traveling in your sleep. and you brought something back with you. So there you go. And when I say brought something back with you, it is not possession, okay? As I was mentioning a while ago, people traveling in their sleep. With sleep paralysis, when you travel in your sleep, you are going to the astral plane, the astral realm. You're going all over the place. If you just go once or twice, the things that are there usually kind of blow you off because they feel we're beneath them. They don't give a shit. However, you go repeatedly, they're going to start taking an interest in you. And for those people that go repeatedly, especially without knowing that they're going, you're probably going further and further and further every time. That's really going to make them take an interest in you. Now, for the most part, the things over there, like I said, they don't really care about us. But there are a vast majority of them over there that are dicks. And if you look at it like a very fucked up version of Monsters, Inc., that's kind of how it is. They will follow you back. They kind of ping you a little bit and they follow you back. And usually they hit you once a week, once every couple weeks. It's pretty like clockwork. You'll start feeling something watching you in the dark. You'll start having bad dreams. You'll start seeing a shadow in just one area of your room all the time. The sleep paralysis itself ends up being where they are basically feeding off your energy. So for people that have a very feminine mindset, they are more vulnerable. And I don't say that with any reasoning behind it. It's just women, people that are feminine, they love to feed off of fear because it's the easiest thing to elicit from you. For people that are very masculine, they love anger and they love feeding off of any kind of sexual dreams you might have. But the fear is their favorite one. It's their favorite one. Because being held down in bed, knowing you can't get up, knowing you can't yell, you can't scream, you can't do anything at all, is one of the most terrifying things ever. You're locked in your own mind, in your own bed, in your own safe place. So I can tell you from experience, it is not fun. And I will absolutely talk about all that next week. Especially with sleep paralysis. So, do deities reach out to you ever? Are you talking about to me in general or to people? Deities reach out to people all the time. I have been doing what I do for a living. And yes, I do this for a living for a while. I've been doing it professionally since 2014. I've helped people for a long time. I had deities that after I was an adult, I realized had reached out to me as a kid. They'd kind of always been around. But in doing what I do, I have gotten to know a few of their energies is the only way I can explain it. They're very interesting. They will reach out to you with signs, with numbers, with animals, with colors, with all kinds of random things. They will reach out to you and be around for a certain point in your life, and then they will leave. They will come in and they will go. Now, here's the thing, guys. This is something I get asked all the time. Do you have to have a deity? No, you don't. You don't have to have a deity. I don't know where that came from, but you don't. You don't. There are so many spiritual people and so many people that are pagans. They practice witchcraft. They practice Wicca, whatever. They don't have deities at all. You do not have to have a deity, guys. So don't feel like you do. So what happens if you see dark shadows and hear voices? Do you know why it happens? There's a lot of things that could be. If you see dark shadows, that could be everything from you have some mediumship abilities and you're channeling without realizing it to you're seeing shadow people to you've pinged something from the astral plane. And the voices could go with that as well. So that question right there has so many variables to it. I would have to know a lot more, but I would also want to know things like what time of day did this normally happen? What time of the month? What time of the moon phase? What happened in your life when you're hearing them, etc. There's a lot of variables there. So there's a lot of variables there. Can you do a relocation reading without the time of birth? You can. It may not be as accurate. So for those of you guys that don't know about relocation astrology, it's utterly fantastic. It is where you can find, if you are planning to move somewhere or you're considering it, I highly recommend having someone pull a specific chart for you and for that place. It will tell you how closely aligned you are with that place. Or if you just know that where you're at is not where you belong, you can have someone pull a broad chart and it can show you the place that your soul is the most comfortable. The way that I personally do it, and I know that a few other people do it this way too, is we pull your birth chart. I have a program where I pull another chart and I look at all the numbers in there. So if it's something specific, say you live in Houston and you're considering moving to New York, what I would do would pull your birth chart where you were born. I would pull a birth chart for where you are that moment, or a natal chart, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. It is a birth chart, but it's not, because it's not where you were born. But you know what I'm saying. I will pull a chart for where you're at currently, and I will pull a chart for where you're considering moving. And I will look at all those numbers. I will compare them. There's 34, 35 different sets of numbers that I look at. So I look at how close they are. I look at which ones are the same, which ones are off, etc. Now, if you just don't know, where you want to be, I pull a graph. I pull a whole graph from your birth chart and I lay it over a map. And I can tell you exactly where the majority of your soul wants to be. And sometimes it's in a very weird spot. But what's funny is every single time I've done this, and I say weird spot in that it's somewhere you've really never thought of. Maybe India or a part of Africa, or you know what I mean? Like something like that. And usually when we delve down the practices and the things in that area, it's something you're already drawn to. So it is wonderfully amazing. It's really, really amazing. So let me see here. That's a good question. Someone just asked, what do you do if you see the Hat Man and you're not afraid? If you see the Hat Man and you are not afraid, chances are you have seen him before. Now, the Hat Man is considered the top of the pinnacle as far as shadow people go. Usually, he is considered a bad omen. Something bad is going to happen. He's whatever. However, people that have mediumship abilities, a lot of times he will appear and you're not afraid of him because he's not there to do anything malicious. What he is there to do is to bring a message of some sort. I have seen him a couple of different times. I have ran him off of my porch one time. Yeah, he's a little interesting. I have not gotten scared when I've seen him before. I more get angry. And I don't know why. He elicits anger from me. But he's a messenger. I just don't want to hear those messages, I think. So, not saying I would like him to visit me again. I'm just saying. Yeah. So, if you guys don't know about the Hat Man, there is your homework too. I highly recommend falling down the rabbit hole on Google, not TikTok. Fall down the rabbit hole on Google about the Hat Man. In fact, Jason Hawes from Ghost Hunters, the show Ghost Hunters, did a massive project in gathering stories about the Hat Man. And it's very interesting. People that have seen him describe him in one of two ways, but they're very, very similar. So it's almost the same. The Hat Man is interesting. He usually shows up as a complete black shadow. He has either a kind of cowboy hat looking hat or a Puritan hat. He almost always has a long coat on. Some like a trench coat, a coat with tails, etc. And about half the people that see him see his eyes. His eyes are either white or red. The majority of them are red, so that's a lot of the fear right there too. He moves very, very carefully. Usually you don't see his legs or his feet. And he doesn't say anything, but he has a very, very heavy presence. A very heavy presence. So yeah. But guys, just talking about him will not summon him, okay? Learn about it, so that way if you do, you don't have to worry about it. So that's a wonderful question. Someone said your chart has curses, deaths, and illnesses. Love, I have been dabbling in and around different kinds of divination, of charts, whether it's birth charts, relocation, etc., for a very long time. It has none of that in there. The people that say this are the people that are trying to push propaganda against anything that is not their belief. I hear it a lot from Christians. I hear it a lot from people that practice Islam, things like that. But what's funny is every other religion has things that they do that are based on astrology. They really do. So, in fact, here's what's really funny. I know more than a handful of people who are super Christian who talk about how all the spiritual stuff is evil, yet they're wearing a zodiac necklace. So, yeah. There is nothing in your chart like that. Nothing. You cannot use a chart to curse someone. You cannot use it to do a bad working against them. It's literally information about their life path, about why they're here on earth this time, why they're in the meat sack that they're in, what they have to overcome. It can tell you so much about yourself. It's pretty scary. It's scarily accurate. Now, if you just get online and you're looking at horoscopes and so on, those are usually pretty generalized. But if you get on and you have a birth chart done, it is usually very, very scarily accurate, especially if you know your time of birth, because it can pinpoint all of the things that you do, the way you are, etc. So it's fantastic. People do fear what they do not understand. That is exactly right. So, how can I learn to read tarot cards? So, I'm going to roll the sleeves up for this one. Tarot cards are very interesting. So, I don't read them. I have tons of different decks, and I keep buying decks, but I don't read them. With tarot cards, it's a lot more upfront to learn, because you have to learn each card. You have to learn the meaning. You have to learn what that card stands for, what it stands for when it's with other cards, etc. From there, once you learn all of that, all you have to do is interpret the artwork on the different cards, because any tarot deck is going to be the same. They're universal meanings. You're just interpreting the artwork. The best way to learn them is to get an app on your phone. There are some fantastic ones for iOS and for Samsung, or not Samsung, Android. In fact, on Android, the one that I use is called Galaxy Tarot. It has a card of the day. It's fantastic. There are a ton of them. Pull your card of the day. They almost all have a widget. You have your card of the day. You go through and see what it is. You can do spreads and so on. Get yourself a book. Really, really delve down and learn how to, it's memorization, truthfully. Now, if you're wanting to learn Oracle, you don't want to put in all the work right off the bat, I recommend getting Oracle cards. Truthfully, I recommend getting both. See which one you like. With Oracle cards, they're much easier to learn to read because you're learning that deck. Yeah, you have to learn a deck. Every time you get a new deck, you have to learn that deck. But what's great about it is that you're going to find a deck that's very easy to read, that you're super connected to, that you don't even have to read the book. I have a lot of decks like that. In fact, most of the decks that I'm drawn to that I pick are like that. Mixing up Oracle and Tarot is a fantastic way to get a very pinpointed, in-depth reading. So before somebody mentions it or asks, let me say this. You don't have to have a deck of cards gifted to you guys. That used to be a belief, or I don't even know where that came from. If most of the readers now, in fact, most of the more well-known or any really any readers in the last 50 or 60 years, okay, last 30 years, let's say that, had waited for someone to buy them a deck of cards, they would never have a deck of cards and they would have never started reading. So, yeah. I saw somebody ask, so it is Galaxy Tarot is the one that is on Android. I don't think that it is on iOS, but if it is, I highly recommend it. It's great. The full version without the ads is really cheap. It's like $4 or $5, I think. It has tons of different spreads that you can learn. I highly recommend it. Ooh, that's a great question. Christy, are dowsing rods accurate divination methods? Yes and no. Yes, in that I have seen them when they are worked correctly. They are fantastic. The problem is they are extremely easy to manipulate without anyone knowing they're being manipulated. Most dowsing rods are literally just a stick. You hold them kind of loosely in your hands. The newer dowsing rods have a ring around them, have a handle, so they can spin easier. The problem is, if you don't hold them exactly level, they're going to always lean one way or the other. You can use the bottoms of your pinky fingers, or the tops of them right here, when you're holding the bottom of the dowsing rods, and you can easily manipulate which way they go. So unfortunately, I don't even like using dowsing rods. I used to love it, but my hands have I have a tremor. So as I get older, I don't like to use them. They're too easily manipulated. Pendulums are kind of the same thing. I don't like to use a pendulum anymore because my hand does shake every now and then. Pendulums are so easy to manipulate as well. The only time I ever recommend using a pendulum is if you have a pendulum stand, something that sits stationary. You can get them on Amazon. You hang your pendulum on it, you let it hold still, then you ask the question. That way you are not touching it. It has no human interaction at all. You do want to be careful not to blow it or whatever, but I am that skeptical believer. I look for every scientific aspect first, and if I can debunk something, I'm going to do that. So that's what I'd recommend, guys. Those are two of the most easily manipulated divination tools that there are. Can anyone learn to be a Reiki healer? Absolutely. In fact, if you guys are drawn to it at all, I highly recommend it. Thank you for the treehouse gift. Having your Reiki certification, even if it's just one, is fantastic for you in your spiritual practice and your energy and going forward. So I highly recommend it. Ooh, have you ever used a deck of cards, playing cards, to do a reading? I love that because a lot of people that used to do readings with decks of cards, that's a lost art. It is very, it's very unique, and it's fucking amazing. There's a deck of cards you can get on Amazon called the Gypsy Tarot. It is a deck of cards, but what I love about it may not be tarot. It's the Gypsy Witch. There we go. The Gypsy Witch. I'm so sorry. They're less than $15. They are a deck of cards, but they have a little cheat on all of them. And it's like a really old looking little picture or icons or whatever. And it kind of tells you underneath. It helps you read them. It helps you learn to read playing cards. I have a deck of them that stays in my purse. And I'm not going to lie. They are absolutely all about some tough love. And they're kind of assholes. But they're fantastic. They're fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Well, guys, I'll tell you what. It is almost midnight here, so I've been flapping my gums for about an hour now. So, I do offer relocation charts in my services, guys. I love doing them. I can even do an animated chart for you if you'd like. Every Tuesday, I read for the zodiacs at 8:30. Every Tuesday at 11, I'm right here with something else unique. Thank you, Julie, for the awesome little under the sea. Every Thursday, guys, right here on TikTok, I do a full Reiki session, and then I do energy drawings. Paint my face all up on Fridays, and I do Norse reads, and on Sundays, I do mediumship reads. So I also teach, I do private sessions, all of that stuff. I would love for you guys to come join me here on TikTok and hang out with me during the week since I'm here so much. Come hang out with everybody that hangs out with me. It's a fantastic group. This will be uploaded to YouTube. All of my social media is the Blue Bodhi. I know there are imposters. I know there are 13 or 14 here on TikTok at this point. There's probably more. There's a few on Instagram, so on. But please follow me. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Patreon, here on TikTok. All the things and stuff. So, I will be back here Thursday. Probably before then. I will see you guys then. Make sure you follow. Like all the videos. I love following you guys back and watching your videos as well. So go to sleep. Go to bed. Go get some sleep. I will see y'all Thursday. Thank you for hanging out with me this evening.